the art of color. Something many people neglect to think about, but is key to making a successful film. So what if I told you that achieving that perfect cinematic color isn't about creating something new, but about recreating something classic? For years, filmmakers have obsessed over the unique characteristics of the film look. The way it emulates old styles, the way it brings emotion to your grade. Today we're unlocking the secrets of the pros with a plugin called Dehancer. This isn't just another color grading tool, it's film emulation right inside of DaVinci Resolve. Let's get right into it. So what exactly is Dehancer? And you might have already guessed this from the intro, but Dehancer is a film emulation plugin for lots of different programs like DaVinci, Premiere, Final Cut, and a few other programs like Photoshop and Lightroom for photos. What it is it's based off of real film, so you get those cool different effects, and it just really makes it feel like it works a lot better than maybe some of the tools built into DaVinci Resolve. So, I mean, there's not really much else to talk about here, so let me just show you how to use Dehancer. Now, just a quick disclaimer here before we get into the video. Dehancer is not sponsoring this video in any way, but they did give me Dehancer for free to be able to test it out and show you how to use it. So once we are inside of DaVinci here, it's not too complicated. I simply have an adjustment clip over my original clip just to make things simpler to copy across my entire timeline, and this is really just how I like to work. But you can do it just inside of the clip. It really doesn't matter. So once we have this, we can click on our adjustment clip and come down here to the color page. Now, as you can see, I have done some basic adjustments. It's nothing fancy, it's just white balance and exposure. You can do this to really your personal liking, but how Dehancer and many other people recommend to use it is at the very end of your node pipeline. So basically what that means is if you want to do anything else to your image before you actually start to use Dehancer, you just want to do that in nodes and have Dehancer as the very last one. So inside of DaVinci here, once you have it fully installed, and Dehancer has all of this stuff on their website very clearly, so I'll have that in the description for you. But once you have it installed, you scroll all the way to the bottom, Dehancer, drag that on, and you can just connect it right here, just like that. So now once you have it connected, you're going to see it does a lot of stuff to your image and makes it look really different. Now this is totally normal, it's what it's meant to do. So all you have to do is come up here to the effects tab in the top right corner, scroll all the way down to options, and press disable all tools. For this qualities, normal and fast, this is all I've used it on, and all of my intro and everything, that's graded with Dehancer on normal. And I find that this is already too much for my computer, honestly. Like, it just can't play back clearly. So if you have an insane computer, go ahead and put it on high and slow, which will give you a better quality. But I find that just like on normal, it still seems to work great. But it really is up to you. If you have it on high though, it will take longer to export, as it may sound. So once you've done that, you are obviously going to have to activate your license once you install it, and you can check profiles to download all of the extra films, which for me, they're already installed. So once we have that, all of these option windows are already closed for us, but sometimes this doesn't happen, so you can just hold option on your keyboard, click on the top one, and that will open or close every single one for you. So let's just go ahead and start right at the top here and work our way down. At the very top, you're going to see inputs, and this is what it sounds like. You tell Dehancer what your footage is and basically just how it needs to process it to give you the best results. Now for me, I don't shoot in log or anything special, so I just have it on Rec 709. But if you have it on something like Choose Camera, you're able to select your camera brand like Sony, and then you can come through here. Let's say I had a S2 or something. Then you can select your camera and all of those things, which does make it a lot simpler depending on if it has your camera in here. It does have a lot, but unfortunately it doesn't have mine. But that doesn't really matter because I just shoot in Rec 709 and this still seems to give me some pretty dang good results. And in here, if you want, you can adjust all of the exposure, temperature, tint, defringe radius. You can do a lot of different adjustments right here, but personally what I prefer to do is just come down here to these other tabs, which we'll get to, or just use the built-in tools in DaVinci to do some of those adjustments before you get to the Dehancer node. So once we have this done, we can go ahead and close that. There's really nothing to do since it's already set on Rec 709. And next we have to come down here to film. And make sure you press enable because this is a big step. You might go into a tab and start adjusting things and think it might be broken because it just doesn't work. You just have to make sure you enable it. So what you can do here is there's a bunch of different film profiles, as you can see. All you have to do is really just scroll through these, find something that you like, and you also remember that just this profile isn't the end. There's still one more thing after this to help get that final look. So what I've found is I kind of like these Fuji profiles. So I'll do, I think, color 200, C200. I don't really know. I know basically nothing about film, but I'm still able to get something that looks good and it looks like film, I guess. But it is really easy to just guess on what you're doing, especially because it's just sliders and checkboxes. So after we have film, before you do anything else here, get excited and try and start doing things, come down here to print. Basically what this is it's like when you're developing film. Now, I don't know anything about this process, but I do know that as you're doing this, things can change. So what you need to do, click enable, and then there's a couple profiles here, Cinefilm log, that's a log profile. So what I'm going to do is codec 2383 print film, and there's like glossy paper and all of these other ones, but all you have to do is see which one you like the best and go from there. But you have to do film and then print first, because after that, that's what your adjustments are. If you start to do other adjustments before you do film and print, it's really just going to mess up your image once you get back to these. So right here, it's target white, exposure, tonal contrast, color density, saturation. The only sliders that I really adjust here are color density, but I really just don't do too much on this. I'll probably go somewhere around there, and if you want to be able to see your screen better, go ahead and just do Shift F to be able to see your image a bit better and just make it easier to color grade and make it look nice. So I'll play around with that a little bit, and now once we've done our film and our print, we can come back up here to Film Developer. And what this is going to do is contrast, gamma, color separation, color boost. So the only sliders that I really do in here are contrast, but I only do a little bit on that because, as I mentioned, I really just like using the tone curve and stuff inside of DaVinci, just using these other nodes, and it's simple enough for me because I know how to do that already. So I'll play around with this color boost a little bit. It's basically like adding some saturation, but in a bit of a different way. So you play around with the color density and color boost to really just get something that you think looks good. But I think from here, you can see you have the gamma and stuff, and you have contrast boost, but now we can come down here to film compression. Now what film compression is it basically just knocks down your highlights. It makes your highlights softer, so it's just a more flat image, but it's more well-rounded and looks like film. So if we enable this here, you can see like in the sky, it just changes that to help bring down the exposure and soften those areas up, which sometimes I actually don't like, but if you're going for that film look, you're gonna want to do this. So at the top, you have impact, which this is basically like global blend inside of DaVinci. It's just the percentage that it's actually affecting your image. Nothing too complicated. I usually go maybe around 70% if you're doing it, but all you're really doing is seeing where you like it. And because I do like my highlights a little bit brighter, I'll maybe go around 30 for this one. And white point and tonal range, what these do is it's basically adjusting where this is actually affecting the image, or which highlights it's going to affect. So if I bring this down, you can see it's doing less. If I bring it up, it's doing more. So I just want this somewhere in the middle. And then tonal range, this is basically the same thing as the white point, changing where it's doing something, but a bit stronger, I guess. So if we adjust this up, you can see it's doing more. Adjust it down, it's doing less. So again, somewhere in the middle, but maybe a little bit less. And right here, this is our last color slider. So you're gonna mess around with the color boost, color density, and color density again. So you can adjust these because this is basically, well, this is for only the highlight region. So I want the sky to be a bit less saturated, not so blue, because film is more just together colors, I suppose. But after you do your film compression, and you can see that does definitely affect the highlights, you come down to your last input before it's more specific. And this is expand. It's black point, white point. You can see enable, doesn't really change much, but it's just like if you're editing in Lightroom or just editing photos, you're just doing black point, white point, adjusting your contrast. So what you can do here is adjust this. I'm gonna say probably around there, and then my white point, something like that. Now, if you do want to help get this more perfect, inside of Dehancer, if you come down here to the bottom at monitor, you can actually enable clipping or false color. So you can see that if I enable clipping here, shirt and some of these background areas are way too dark, but I think it still looks okay. So if you want to use that, you're able to, and it's built in so that you can just enable, disable, and it just makes it really simple to know if things are looking good. So once we've worked through all of these, you can do Luma. I mean, I've just kept it on normal. I think it's fine. But once you've done all of your, I'd say, basic inputs, and the most important ones at that, you come down here to color head. Now, I've seen a lot of people how they say they just like to use the color wheels inside of DaVinci. Now, I definitely do this sometimes, but I think it's really easy to just do it all inside of here because it's a lot easier to use the slider left and right and have it split up like this instead of trying to make different nodes and masks and just really trying to know which ones they are affecting. So what you can do here is after we enable it, if you press gang, these will work together and they're connected. I personally don't do this, and you can just reset them all. So what I usually do is, it's very minor adjustments here. It's nothing too special. I want my image to be a little warmer, so I'm going to go more yellow, and then I'm going to need to go more green, just a little bit of green here, not too much, and then cyan red, because I just want a little bit of blue here. I'll go more to cyan. You can see this doesn't do a whole lot, but you can see it definitely does warm up the image here. If you go off and then go on, you can see it makes the whole thing more one color instead of a lot of different things like cool and warm, because I'm right in the sun here. So after you have that, you have specific shadow, midtone, and highlights tones. So this is warm or cool, and it's really just affecting the warm or cool. So shadows, you can see I can make them really cool, I can make them really warm. I'm definitely going to make them more warm here because I really just want the whole image to be more warm. So if I adjust that, midtones, I'll bring those up also right there, and then highlights, I'll bring those up just a little bit as well. And all of this really just depends on the specific look that you're going for. There's no right way to do this, there's only what you think looks good. So after you've done that, I'm done right there. But you do have preserve exposure and impact. And the impact is just like the impact on film compression, and it's just the percentage that it's affecting your image. So full percentage, full effectiveness, 100, and you can bring it down to 0. And it's really just like that. I usually leave this one on 100 though, because I'm not too great at doing things super well in camera. But you can see just by doing the adjustments here, it does make quite a big difference on the overall image. But after we've gone through all of those things, there's really is only personalization from here on. We have film grain, halation, bloom, film damage, film breathe, and quite a few others after that, which I think are mostly self-explanatory. Film grain, obviously, if you enable that, it's gonna make your image pretty grainy. What I usually do here is you can come through all of these settings and choose different ISOs. The higher ISO, the more grain there is going to be on your image, and the lower the millimeter number or the size film, the bigger the grain is going to be, because as you can see, the 8mm is a lot bigger than 35. What I usually do here is I'll do 65 ISO 50 and then bring my effectiveness down to something like 3. It's very minor, but it does make a difference, and it's really quite that simple. Just make your percentage and choose which size film you want. In here though, you do have more adjustment than you think. If you click on a profile and then custom, you can adjust all of these different sliders, which honestly I haven't played around with at all, and I think it looks pretty dang good and good enough for me without doing any of this. So I just leave it on whatever film profile I chose, and it looks good enough for me right there. Now from here, Halation is basically adding reddish tones around all of the bright spots on your image on the edge. So if I turn this on here, you can see around my face, there's a little bit of red. So if I go right here, you'll see it's more emphasized. I can't talk. You can see there's a lot of red, especially around my arms and stuff right here. And if I enable mask mode, you can see where it's affecting right here, mostly my arms and then my face a little bit. And this is really a film thing that a lot of people might want and really does add to the film look. I don't like it super strong though, so I'll usually go 35, super 35, and then my amount to somewhere around 30. It's subtle, but not subtle enough that it's hard to see. And now we can come down to bloom. What bloom is it's like glow in DaVinci. It basically is a white halation, but across your entire image instead of mostly just the highlights. It just softens up the whole thing and makes it look more filmish. So if I enable this here, you can see it just softens up the whole image. And if I make it stronger, you can see it's white instead of red. And mask mode here, you can see obviously it is affecting the brighter parts of the image more, but it really softens up the whole image more than just halation. So I usually do a mix of halation and bloom. I'll go 35 on this one and maybe 40%. 25%. I usually like to keep the halation and bloom at a similar percentage, that way that they really just even out each other and they're not too strong. But again, this is fully personal preference, and it's whatever you think looks the best. And something that is kind of interesting, like I mentioned, you might have noticed that I said glow for DaVinci, and that's because DaVinci doesn't have a specific bloom effect, which I find it's just so easy to have all of these in here, instead of having to know how to use each individual effect inside of DaVinci with all of the different nodes, and it just gets pretty complicated pretty quick. This just really puts it together. Now from here, I really am done most of the time. The only other thing that I usually do is Vignette, and this is pretty self-explanatory. You can enable the Vignette. It darkens the outside of your image, but if you want to really refine it and make it more to how you like, you can enable mask mode, and you can see this is where the Vignette is affecting. So if I adjust the size here, you can just drag it around on the screen to adjust where it is. I usually go round full size and then make it just the very edges, and then you can disable mask mode and bring down the exposure maybe just a little bit like that. Plus you have feather and aspect ratio, so those gives you even more adjustment than you might have with something else. But this is basically everything that I use in Dehancer. There are more things though, like film damage, film breathe, gate weave, and overscan. Film damage is what it might sound like. It just adds a bunch of different imperfections to your image, like all of the scratches and dust and stuff. Film Breathe is basically adjusting your color slash exposure throughout the image. So if I have this on here, let's make it stronger, you can see the exposure slash color is being affected while it's playing through the image, and it's not staying stationary. We have Gate Weave. This basically just is camera shake, which is like an effect that you can add inside of DaVinci itself. But what it does is, it's just like camera shake. It is moving around your whole image, and you can see it's very subtle, but it does do something. Now, the very last thing, Overscan, what this is, as you might see here, it gives you an overlay essentially based on what film profile you want. But the nice thing about Overscan in Dehancer, other than like some different overlays, is it is actually stationary. You can find other overlays and stuff that have some movement, but you typically are going to have to pay for those on top of something else. So we have lots of different film profiles here, and you have a bunch of other adjustments. If you really want that look, it is there as well if you need it. But other than that, the only other things you have are output and LUT Generator. Basically what LUT Generator is it gives you a option to make your own LUT based out of all of the adjustments that you've done in Dehancer. Now, I haven't used this because what I like to do is just save my adjustment clip inside of my power window, because then I can have all of my previous nodes and everything that I did to the image instead of just Dehancer saved as a LUT. Then we have output. And what this does is it is the global blend, or the percentage, or the effectiveness of every single adjustment that you did inside of Dehancer, instead of just singular adjustments like the impact slider for just the color head section. This just does the entire thing on of Dehancer. So if I drag this all the way down, you can see Dehancer is off, and if I drag this all the way on, you can see that's full effectiveness of Dehancer. I have had this around 70 to 80%. I'll just drag it, looking at my image, see what looks best, and I'm going to say around 70% right here. And this is all you have to do inside of Dehancer to be able to get a really nice looking image. But if you do want to do other things, it is really not that hard. All you have to do is make sure to leave Dehancer as your very last node, and Dehancer actually has this information on their website telling you and showing you how they suggest you use it in your node tree. But as you can see, I have my basic adjustments here, and you can add other nodes, do skin tones, all of those other types of things if you would like. But if we come back here to the edit page, you can see I have a really nice looking color grade, and that really wasn't that hard to make, because all I had to do was those basic adjustments, which are pretty dang simple inside of DaVinci already, and then just one single node instead of having to learn how to use each individual tool inside of DaVinci and know how to line them up inside of your node tree, which is a bit of work in itself. So you can see here, if I go off and on, this does make a very big difference on my image. Before, it was very green and little not too contrasty for me, but if we have Dehancer here, you can see it evens everything out, it makes it warmer, it adds those different touches that are very specific to film, like grain, halation, and bloom, which just gives it a really nice touch that I think looks really good. But if you do want to make this just cooler, I suppose, instead of using Overscan, you can just crop it inside of your adjustment clip here, and boom, now you have a film profile instead of an anamorphic profile like you might see in a lot of different videos today. So would I buy Dehancer for myself? I would say yes. for me, it would be totally worth it, and I think it just is worth it. To get that very film look inside of DaVinci, it takes a lot of different tools, and knowing how to put them together and use them all in conjunction to be able to get that film look, especially for the amount of time that it takes to use Dehancer versus what it would take to use DaVinci Resolve. Because Dehancer has every single tool just built right into it, it's super simple to just put everything together and go through in about 20 to 25 minutes and get that great looking color grade really simply and easily. So if you do want to go pick up Dehancer for yourself, you can actually download it completely for free to be able to test it out and use it in your specific software and try it out on your specific clips. You just won't be able to export it without a watermark. So if you do end up doing that and you actually like it and you want to end up purchasing it, go ahead and use the code JWP to be able to get 10% discount on whatever Dehancer product you choose to buy. But if you don't want to get the full Dehancer plugin, they do have some different options too. You can simply just download each individual effect like bloom or halation or film grain that is specific to Dehancer still, but it's not part of the entire Dehancer suite to get all of the different options like the actual film profiles. So thank you to Dehancer for sending out this for me to test, and I honestly do really love it. Especially for me, someone who isn't great at color grading and really hasn't even looked into this before, but I have tried to get the film look on my own, and it just didn't really work out good enough for me to feel good about using it in the real video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.